Welcome in. It is Big Ten Today. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday alongside former NFC Coach of the Year, Dave Wannstedt. I am Dave Remsen. Got to get the awards in there.
Where did you come up with that?
You know, the internet is a very powerful tool.
I still got my all Madden sweatshirt, too.
Yeah, you were John Madden. You were the Coach of the Year for John Madden. No NFC needed. But it is always fun to see great performances rewarded, and that's part of what we're going to do today.
Perfect. You know, this is the kids look forward to this too. The players do, as do the coaches. There's no question about it. You don't think about it during the course of the year, but when it gets here now, the season's wound down, they all start happening, and there is some excitement if you're in the running. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to dive into it and just get right to some of the awards. They are our big story. Taking a look at the first team All Big Ten defense. 8 players were named first-teamers by both the coaches and the media. That includes 3 defensive linemen, Johnny Newton, JT Tuimoloau, and Chop Robinson. Consensus picks at linebacker, Iowa's Jay Higgins, who's second in the nation in tackles, and Ohio State's Tommy Eichenberg. 3 DBs made both first teams, Iowa's Cooper DeJean, Michigan's Will Johnson, and Tyler Nubin of Minnesota. Those named to one of the 2 first teams, Mason Graham, Adisa Isaac, Abdul Carter, conference tackle for loss leader Aaron Casey, Denzel Burke, and Mike Sainristil. Illinois' Newton named both the Smith-Brown Defensive Lineman of the Year and the Nagurski-Woodson Defensive Player of the Year. Newton, as disruptive a force as there is in college football, 7.5 sacks this season, leading the way for the Illini, tied for second in the conference. He's one of 5 finalists for the Bronco Nagurski Award, given to the nation's top defensive player, regardless of position. And Wani, we have had defensive linemen win this award through the years, a few interior defensive linemen, but generally it is defensive ends when a D lineman wins it. So the fact that it is a defensive tackle in Johnny Newton, what does that tell you about just how disruptive he could be?
Yeah, I think you just hit it there. You know, for a defensive tackle to receive this type of award, he's got to be, and I put him in the terms of a playmaker. And there can be some very good defensive tackles that their only job is to use up blockers so the linebackers make all the tackles. In this case right here, Johnny Newton, I mean, he's a playmaker. You look at his number of tackles and his tackles for loss and his sacks. I mean, if I'm scouting, I'm a coach, I'm looking at him and say, boy, this guy's an every down player. He doesn't come out. And I'll tell you what, why I'm so excited about this for Johnny, he came back this extra year. He could have left last year. And I remember when I was talking to Darrelle Revis, and I always had the feeling, I want you back. But if you're going to be a first or second round draft pick and you need the money, go, okay? Well, he said he wasn't sure from the information he got where he would be drafted. He came back to Illinois for another year, had a fantastic year, and now I checked, talking about him, now he's going to be a first, probably a first, the latest a second-round draft pick, so he's going to be playing on Sundays next year.
No doubt. I've seen some mock drafts that have had him as high as the top 10, and you think about a guy who was the 1,057th ranked player in his class. Pretty remarkable story.
Tells you a lot, something inside this guy.
No doubt. Yeah, no, he's been fabulous. Again, more awards coming up in a bit. But Wani, this is the first time we've had you on since Ohio State and Michigan this weekend. So I want to get some thoughts on that. Obviously, the Wolverines winning at 30-24, third straight win over the Buckeyes. First time they pulled that off in more than 25 years. They never trailed in the game. OSU did tie it late in the third quarter, had the potential game-winning drive snuffed out in Wolverines territory. Rod Moore coming up with the pick of Kyle McCord to seal the deal. And so Michigan is headed to the Big Ten championship game for the third straight year. Remember, they had never been before this streak of 3 straight. Let's start with Michigan's side. What stood out to you?
You know what? I'm not a big coach's cliche guy, but I have to start that way. Yeah. We talked last week that it's not the team that makes the most great plays. Everybody says this. It's the team that makes the fewest bad plays. And I hate to use the word bad. Maybe it's mistakes. But all you got to do is look at the turnovers, the missed field goals, and you say, okay, what team won? Forget about all the other stats, passing right now and running and defense and all that stuff. Here, just look at the turnovers and missed field goal, 2 turnovers, no turnovers, and that was a major player in this game. So coaches say that all the time. I've said it as a head coach, but it's true. There's truth to it. The second thing that jumps at me is you always say, okay, in big games, your big players need to show up. The stars need to show up. And you look at what happened, J.J. McCarthy, plays clean. Blake Corum, 2 touchdowns. You mentioned Rod Moore, Will Johnson, come up with interceptions. So when you look across, and I'm in Loveland, Wilson, their star receivers make plays. So Michigan their guys showed up. They didn't make mistakes. And they made plays when there were plays there to be made in their individual category, whatever position they played. So, they did it right. They earned this game. They executed the best. They played clean. They played smart. And that's what you got to do. Ohio State's a great team. That's what you have to do if you're going to have a chance to beat a team like Ohio State.
As we said, the game was still hanging in the balance at the end there,
No
and
question.
Ohio State had a chance to win the game. But there was never a moment where you felt like Ohio State was controlling the game, or at least where I felt like Ohio State was controlling the game. They made a nice run. They had the one really long drive where they essentially exclusively ran the ball to tie it up at 17. But from there, it felt like Michigan took the control back, and it just speaks to they were the better team. They were the better team on the field on Saturday, and it does raise a lot of questions about Ohio State. There's been a lot of talk about the lack of aggression, particularly some of the play calling from Ryan Day. What do you make of where the Buckeyes find themselves right now? Clearly an elite team. They still have a chance. They'll have to thread a needle, but they have a chance to make the college football playoff. They made it last year, losing to Michigan, and came within a whisker of beating the eventual national champ. But 3 times in a row, they have not measured up against the Wolverines.
Yeah, no, and it's difficult, and everything that comes along with that. Ryan Day, it's a tough deal right now, but I don't question anything that he did play calling wise.
You don't?
I don't. I kept looking for a big explosive play. I thought coming into this game, Rever, I said to myself, okay, what separates these teams? In my mind, it was never the word physicality never came up. As physical and as good as Michigan's offensive line is, they were fantastic. But I kept saying to myself, explosive plays. I kept saying, between Henderson at the running back position and Marvin Harrison Jr. at the receiver position, I just didn't see guys with that type of bang, get out of your chair, when they get the ball.
Right.
And I thought that would happen, give Michigan credit. It didn't happen. I kept saying to myself, is Harrison getting the ball enough? What do you have, 5 catches for 100-some yards? But, should they have taken more chances and just throw it up? Last week we talked about him, and I gave the Larry Fitzgerald example. I thought that our quarterback did a heck of a job when Larry was a senior, who I compare him to physically, size-wise, speed, everything. It wasn't a quarterback. Larry just went up and caught the ball, whether there was one guy or 3 guys on him. Quarterback had nothing to do with it. So I kept coming back to that in my mind saying, throw it up, Kyle. Just throw it up. Even though you're Reed, he's probably making the right read. Let's give Michigan credit. They were doubling him. They were rolling the coverage to him. They had a good scheme. They weren't going to let him beat him by himself. So if you're the quarterback and you drop back, and I'm looking right now at Marvin, and they're rolled the coverage up and he's covered, you're saying, I'm going to go to somebody else. But that's easy to second guess, and I'm not going to do that. I just think that at the end of the game, the physicality, the execution, I'm not going to use that word, the execution of Michigan's offensive line and defensive line, I think they won the battle.
The drive for the field goal that put them up by 2 scores, I think, exemplified that, where we just saw them grind it out.
And the last play, Rever, when Ohio State had the ball and they're driving on the last interception, they ran. Jake and I were talking this morning, Jake, and they ran a twist on the defensive line against Ohio State. Michigan runs a little ET game. And it wasn't an all-out blitz or anything sophisticated. You got to be able to handle that. And they split them. Michigan split them and got pressure, right? And Kyle threw that thing up because there was somebody going to hit him in the mouth. And it's an interception. So I'm saying to myself, Michigan won that battle, and it ended up being a big turnover in my mind.
Absolutely. Huge win for the Wolverines, obviously moving on to face Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. Plenty of talk about that game throughout the course of the week. All-conference selections continue. 5 players were named second-team all-conference on defense by both the coaches and the media. That includes Chris Jenkins and Nick Scorton up front. Scorton, the Big Ten sack leader. Junior Colson of Michigan and Northwestern's Bryce Gallagher at linebacker, and Penn State's Kalen King in the secondary. Those named to one of the 2 second teams, Ohio State's Tyleik Williams and Jack Sawyer, Michigan's Kenneth Grant, Tarheeb Still of Maryland, Iowa's Sebastian Castro, Hunter Wohler, the Big Ten's second leading tackler, and freshman phenom Dylan Thieneman, who tied for the league lead with 6 interceptions. Ohio State's Tommy Eichenberg, the Butkus Fitzgerald linebacker of the year. Eichenberg, the leader of one of the nation's top defenses. They're in the top 3 nationally in both total defense and scoring defense. He's pacing the Buckeyes with 82 tackles. He is the first Ohio State player ever to win this award. Iowa's Cooper DeJean capturing both the Tatum Woodson Defensive Back of the Year and the Rogers Dwight Return Specialist of the Year awards. DeJean, the 5th Hawkeye in the last 9 years to be named the top DB. He picked off 2 passes, broke up 5 more, also finished second in the conference in punt return average, and brought 1 back for a score. Cooper DeJean joins me. He is today's big interview. And Cooper, congratulations, first of all, on winning both of these awards. We'll get into the awards in a second, but obviously you're banged up. You're out for the year, unfortunately. What can you tell us about your injury and where you are in your rehab?
Yeah, I had surgery last week, and now I've just been rehabbing ever since, trying to stay around the team and do whatever I can to help these guys prepare for Saturday.
Yeah, give me a sense of that. To what extent have you been able to stay involved and been a part of meetings and been in on team activities?
Yeah, I've been in every meeting. Just trying to help the younger guys who may need to step in and fill in that role, and also helping the guys who are already playing, just seeing things from a different perspective, whether it's in practice or in the film room. Really just trying to help out in any way I can.
We'll get into the game against Michigan in just a bit, but I want to ask you about these awards, and I want to ask you which one means more to you. I think it's kind of like asking a parent which child they love more. You never want to get into that. But I want to ask you to reflect on each one of the awards. And let's start with Defensive Back of the Year. What does it mean to win that award, and how do you I guess, what does it mean to you, and how do you kind of isolate that one and specifically defensive back play and in kind of how you've seen your game evolve?
Yeah, it's a tremendous honor. I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my defensive backs coach and defensive coordinator, Coach Parker. Coming in as a freshman, I really didn't know a whole lot about playing the position, but being able to learn from him, over these past couple of years and just his knowledge has really helped me a lot. And I wouldn't be able to win this award if it wasn't for the other guys on this defense. I feel like we got a really well-rounded unit in all 3 areas. The D-line does a great job of stopping the run and getting pressure on the quarterback, and our linebackers do a great job leading, getting everybody in the right positions. And my fellow defensive backs as well, they do a great job. So it's a really great honor. Obviously, a lot of Iowa DBs have won this award, so it's cool to be to be in there with them as well.
I think you may have touched on it to a certain extent there, but why do you think Iowa's had such an amazing run here? And 5 of 9 it's pretty amazing when you consider you're in a 14-team league here.
Yeah, I think it starts with Coach Parker, just what he demands from our room and really our defense. He expects perfection at every day at practice, in every game. And I think that makes our defense play at such a high level. And especially in defensive back room, just wanting to go out there and fly around to the ball and be able to make plays.
Let's talk about the return specialist of the year, and it's named in part after one of the great Iowa players of all time in Tim Dwight, who of course excelled in the return game. What does that award mean to you?
Yeah, it's really awesome. I got to watch a few clips of Tim Dwight before the season, which was pretty cool. I'm grateful, for Coach Woods and trusting me, back there to do what I do. And it wouldn't be possible without, the guys up front on the punt return unit, doing all the dirty work for me. So I've clean, running lanes and stuff. So I think it's really a group effort, to win this award. So it's really awesome. I'm really grateful.
I mentioned you had one punt return for a touchdown. You obviously had the play in the Minnesota game as well that was called back. And I think Coach Ferrett's made it fairly clear in the post game after the Nebraska game that he still hasn't totally gotten over it. To what extent do you still think about that play and kind of the what ifs that surrounded Cooper?
Yeah. Obviously where we're at now, you think about those what ifs. It's still in the back of my mind. I see the video every once in a while, whether it's on social media or just people sending it to me. But there's not really much you can do about it now. Just kind of gotta move on from it. But yeah, just got to move on, and focus on the future and move forward.
I do want to ask you a little bit about this team. I just think it's been an incredible story this year. I mean, you go back to the summer and there was the gambling probe. You've had massive injuries. I mean, Cade McNamara being the most obvious one, but you had two All-American level tight ends out for the year. You've had several injuries at other key positions. Obviously now with you being out here, you've had all of the challenges that the offense has faced, part of it as a result of those injuries. How has this team persevered and gotten to where they are?
Yeah, I think it's just a really resilient group of guys that we got. Everybody feeds off one another. Everybody's really close knit. Our locker rooms, one of the best locker rooms and best teams I've ever been a part of. I think, just everything we've been through as a team. To the injuries, off the field stuff. And being able to be where we're at, having a chance to play for a Big Ten title. I think it's a testament to our head coach, Coach Ferentz, and the way he operates, and the way our program is run. We're always, focused on that next play, that next game. We talk about winning during the week, how important it is to prepare, each and every week, and each and every practice. So I think it's really a testament to him and how great of a coach he is.
Cooper, you and I talked a little bit about this in media days, but I just want to ask you to expand on it a little bit. Your recruitment basically came down to Iowa and South Dakota State. You're from a small town in Iowa, so maybe didn't get the publicity that some players get. How much does proving people wrong play into your psyche, and how much does a moment like this today, winning two huge awards, factor into that?
To be honest, proving people wrong, I feel like that's not really hasn't really set into my mind. I feel like it's just been me, going out and trying to be the best football player and best teammate I can be, for this team. And I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to come and play here. It was a dream of mine, growing up to play at the University of Iowa. It was my only Power 5 offer. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm happy I'm here. I feel like, this program has helped me grow, as a person and as a football player. And I couldn't be more grateful, to have this opportunity to play for such a great coaching staff and a great program.
Well, you are a credit to that program for sure. And again, really feel terrible for you don't get a chance to play in the Big Ten championship game coming up on Saturday, but you were telling us at the outset about your involvement with the team. So before we let you go, just give me a broad brush here, because not many people are giving Iowa much of a chance, as I'm sure you are well aware. What's it going to take to beat Michigan?
Yeah, they're a tremendous team. And I think the guys, are excited for the opportunity. Obviously, not many people are giving us a chance, just like many other games this season. But we're gonna go out and we're preparing, throughout this week. They're a really great team. Our preparation is gonna be key. And I think the guys are excited for the opportunity on Saturday to go out and compete.
Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year and Return Specialist of the Year, Cooper DeJean of the University of Iowa. Cooper, congratulations on all of your accomplishments this year, and perhaps we'll see you on the sidelines in Indy on Saturday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our awards announcements continuing with the Bakken Anderson Kicker of the Year. Minnesota's Dragan Kesic hit 22 of 26 field goals, had all 12 of their points in their win over Iowa, hit the game winner in the season opener against Nebraska as well. Fabulous on kickoffs. 47 of his 56 ended up as touchbacks. Best percentage in the Big Ten and sixth best nationally. Iowa's Tory Taylor named the Edelman Fields Punter of the Year for the second time in his career. He won it in 2020 as well. You would be hard-pressed to find a punter who means more to his team. Taylor leading the conference at nearly 48 yards per kick. He's second in the nation in net punting. His 79 punts were 11 more than anyone else in the Power Five. The All-Big Ten specialists, the first teamers, are the three who won the individual awards, Kesic, Taylor, and DeJean. Lots of kickers got recognized, 3 on the second team, 2 on the third team. Daquan Hardy's second team as a return specialist. Remember, had never returned a punt in college, and then he brought 2 back for scores against UMass. Among those highlighting the third team defense, Iowa's Joe Evans led the Hawks' outstanding D in sacks and tackles for loss. Northwestern's Xander Mueller finished in the top 7 in the conference in tackles and tackles for loss. Also had a team-high 3 interceptions. Rod Moore, of course, the game-winning pick for Michigan against Ohio State. Wisconsin's Ricardo Hallman tied for first in the league with 6 interceptions. Northwestern's David Braun sweeping the Coach of the Year awards, wins the coaches vote, the Hayes Schembechler Coach of the Year, as well as the media's Dave McClain Award. Braun was hired to be Northwestern's defensive coordinator just over 10 months ago. He was promoted to interim head coach in July amidst massive turmoil, took a 1-win team from a year ago and went 7-5, leading the Cats to their first bowl game in 3 years. He is the focus of our big stats. 7 wins for Braun. That is the most for a first-year Northwestern head coach since 1903, when Walter McCormick won 10. His 7th win, by the way, came against noted powerhouse Chicago Dental on the same day that Cy Young picked up a victory on the Hill in the first-ever World Series. It's been a minute, as the kids say. Braun will go for win number 8 in the bowl season. And David Braun joining us now for Coach Speak. And Coach Braun, welcome in. Great to have you with us. Again, you were hired 10 months ago to be the defensive coordinator, and now here you are as Big Ten Coach of the Year. I hate to ask you how it feels. It's the most trite question out there, but how does it feel? It seems like the only appropriate question in this moment.
It's surreal, and it's a credit to our players. It's a credit to the staff. It's a credit to the resolve of the entire program. We knew in July that we had a team that had an opportunity to do some special things, and there was all sorts of things swirling around the program. And to this group's credit, coaches, staff, players especially, we rooted into working on the things that we knew we could control, and that's getting out to practice and pouring into one another and finding ways to improve each day. Certainly weren't playing our best football at the beginning of the year, but this group just found a way to continue to improve throughout the season, and certainly feel like we're playing our best football right now, which is really exciting. Such an incredible opportunity for our team to become bowl eligible, and then to see our guys find a way to win in a rivalry game on the last regular season game of the year. Special moment for our program.
So, Dave, I want to tell a little story here. I want to preface it by saying that one of the things I try to do in the offseason is I try to get to know some of the new coaches, new assistants in the Big Ten. It's an inexact science. I certainly don't get to everyone. But you and I were connected a little bit, and then I met you at spring practice, and we put on the calendar like 6 weeks out hey, let's have lunch since I'm in Chicago and you're not far from here. And so we put a day on the calendar. Now, it ended up being the Monday after you were named the interim head coach, about 4 days after. I texted the night before and I said, do you still want to do this? I mean, I couldn't imagine what was going on with you. And he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it in Evanston instead of in the city. And I came out and I met with you. I was blown away by how composed you were. I was blown away by your optimism, and you were talking about the teams that you still thought he could beat. And I was thinking, I don't know what this guy's thinking. I mean, it's kind of a mess. But take me back to that moment. Take me not to the lunch, but take me back to like those 4 or 5 days when you went from being the defensive coordinator to being the head coach, having never coached before as a head coach at any level. And what was going through your head? Because I was struck by how you seem to be taking it all in stride.
Yeah, Dave, there was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of hurt, a lot of question marks. As I told you, Kristen and I made a decision to move our family here because we thought we were embarking and joining one of the most stable situations in college football and working for a man in Pat Fitzgerald that we, loved and admired and, wanted to work alongside. And, all of a sudden, that's turned upside down. And there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of emotion. More than anything, Dave, it was an opportunity for me to grow rapidly. I was to say I was out of my comfort zone is the understatement of the century. But an opportunity for me to learn and grow and then really root into, why my family, why I got into coaching, why our family, decides to do what we do is, we do it because we feel like football is an opportunity to have a positive impact on young people. And there was a bunch of young people within our program that, needed support and needed someone to put their arm around them. And every single decision that we made, every decision that I made as head coach was with their interest at the forefront of my mind. And a credit to our staff. Our staff did the same. We put our arms around these guys. We poured into them and we tried to, push them to be their absolute best. And we knew we had a group that had the potential to win games in the Big Ten. And, we knew it was going to be quite the challenge, but just, again, a credit to the leadership on this team, these captains, the upperclassmen within this program. There was times during the season where things looked bleak and they just stayed the course. They continued to show up and to get to where we've been is really exciting. You got a team right now that is hungry to continue to improve. And once we find our target in the bowl game is excited to finish the season off the right way.
Hey Coach, and Reverend and I have talked about this. There's a lot of talk when you came just as a coordinator. Oh boy, he's a coordinator now. It's Division I, and now the head coach. And I've said this to people. I said this to Reverend. I said, I can take you back when we left the University of Miami and we went to the Dallas Cowboys. And we were these college kids, and now we're going to this next level. And after about 2 weeks, I remember saying, aren't we still working on these turnover drills that we did back then? And aren't we still teaching tackling the same way? And we still got to cover guys or it's a touchdown. I mean, and I was thinking about you all the way through this journey. And as you said, you're playing your best football at the end of the season. But it's not just everybody would say, oh yeah, the defense, because that's your expertise. But you have found a way to get the offense playing as good as they've played all year, and the special teams. How has everything come together from a staff standpoint or a player standpoint? How has all that happened? Because it's outstanding, and it's just not one phase. I mean, your football team from top to bottom is playing so much better.
I agree, Dave, and I appreciate the compliment. We talked from the beginning of fall camp that, that's how the Cats are going to have to win games, team football. And things can get chippy in practice, and we love that competition. But at the end of the day, we're one team. And, that we talked to early in camp, there's going to be games where we win because the defense, stands on their head and plays amazing. There's going to be games that we win, a game like Minnesota where it's a shootout, a game, like Illinois where, our offense is finding ways to score a bunch of points and we're scoring on special teams. We knew it was going to take all three phases. And there was just an unwavering belief in this group, a belief in themselves, a belief in one another, and just a belief that, regardless of what we expected the game to look like when we got into it, we were going to stay the course and find a way to stay in games and try and win games in the fourth quarter. And that's what this team has proven it has the ability to do on a consistent basis.
I think recruiting is the lifeline for any college program. You got to have players, okay? And now obviously you got the transfer portal included in that. And, and I'm good friends with Fitz, and I know and knew the challenges that Northwestern deals with differently than some other programs as far as whether it be the recruiting or the transfer portal. Where you at right now? Have you thought this whole thing through as far as, and are you going to make any tweaks, any changes? Is administration giving you any help there, Coach, as far as, to get good players in and keep them in? Has anything changed?
This is, when there's change, whether it's expected or desired, when there's change like this, it's an opportunity to really take a step back and evaluate everything. And we've done that. There's been a lot of things done here at Northwestern within this program for a long time that are best practices that you admire and you go, we're doing it the right way. But with the changing landscape of college football, there's also areas that we need to continue to push the envelope and evolve. And, we're going to continue to root into the values of the university and this athletic department and this program, what it stood for a long time in terms of, recruiting young men that value the Northwestern degree, that are high character, tough, love football, and are team first guys. It's our job to go do that. It's our job to, thoroughly evaluate and identify young men that we can develop into, Big Ten football players that can help us win Big Ten championships. It may look a little different than other programs. We may have to recruit that developmental kid that, maybe isn't there yet, but 36 months from now, he can be a first team all Big Ten player. It's just going to take thorough development, great coaching, and a belief from that young man that he can reach those levels. And then we're going to have to do a great job in the new age of transfer portal and NIL of creating things that are outside of our hands. So maybe it's not us creating it, but doing a great job surrounding our program in NIL to ensure that we have things that we can do to make sure that we retain our student athletes, to ensure that they graduate from Northwestern with their degree and they play their best college football at Northwestern. You came to Northwestern to be fully developed, holistically developed, turn into the best version of yourself as a young man. Let's ensure that you leave with the Northwestern degree and that you play your best college football while you're still at Northwestern.
Dave, what do you want the identity of this program to be, like offensively, defensively? Because you're putting your stamp on it now. How do you want people to kind of describe each side of the ball?
Fundamentally based, fundamentals and technique. When people turn on the film, they tangibly see a group that plays really, really hard. I mean, like uncommon effort, and a group that plays together. That truly trusts one another and loves being around one another. And you could see that on that touchdown on our kickoff. Braden Russ forces the fumble, Matt Uline celebrating on his hat, Garner Wallace is in the end zone. I mean, tangibly a group that loves one another, that plays for one another, that plays together. And then lastly, for us to win on a consistent basis and have a sustainable product here at Northwestern that wins in the Big Ten, we have to be the most physical team on the field every Saturday. Have to be. Now, that can take a lot of different forms, Dave. That can take forms in spread offense where you're dominating on the perimeter and blocking scheme and RPO, and you're running the ball in the light box and you're dominating the line of scrimmage and lock scheme zone. That can also show up in 13 personnel where you're running A-gap power. I mean, those are the things that we got to sort through. But the non-negotiables for us are fundamentals, technique, a team that plays for one another, loves one another, and we have to ensure that we're recruiting young men and coaching in a manner that on Saturdays tangibly, we're the most physical team on the field each and every Saturday.
David, I'm going to leave you with this. You're being rewarded for what will be, I think, one of the most remarkable seasons in recent Big Ten history, and one certainly people around Northwestern's program will talk about for a long time. What's the moment that will stick with you the most? Is there one singular moment that kind of is in your head about this season?
Yeah, it's hard to forget the comeback against Minnesota. I'm up and down the sideline in the fourth quarter and saw a group that still believed, found a way to make an incredible fourth quarter comeback, and seeing Charlie Mangieri catch that ball in the end zone from Ben Bryant and seal a victory in overtime. is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And this award is a reflection of, first and foremost, our players, and secondly, this staff. Character is revealed in times of adversity, and this award is a true reflection of the character that is in this program and in this facility.
David Braun, Big Ten Coach of the Year, named by both the coaches and the media. Congratulations, Coach. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you here down the line.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Wrapping things up here on Big Ten Today, we had the Defensive Awards, Coach of the Year, specialists announced today. What stood out to you there, Coach?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know how Kirk Ferentz does at Iowa, but if you fly to a flight, some teams put their starters or key guys up front in first class.
Yeah. I have a sense where you may be going with this.
Torrey Taylor, Coach, he gets the first seat. In fact, he gets to pick whatever seat he wants. He wants to sit in the cockpit up there with the pilot. Sit there. He is so valuable to that team, and so happy for that kid.
It warms my heart. As you know, I wrote a book on the early history of college football.
Yes.
And in those days, the kicker was the single most important player on the field because, field goals were worth more than touchdowns. It was a huge field position battle. You couldn't throw the ball. You could only run it. And so the punter in particular was the most important player in early college football.
I drafted Todd Sauerbrunn, and he led the country. He broke Reggie Roby's record.
Todd Sauerbrunn was a heck of a punter.
Iowa punter. And he came to the Bears, and then he couldn't kick. I don't know what happened.
All right, let's get to our winner of the week. It was not Todd Sauerbrunn. No. This is the final one for the regular season. Which team are you picking?
I am going with Mike Locksley and Maryland. I mean, I'll tell you what. They went through that tough, 4-game losing streak, and they were struggling. And I'm just
It was called October.
I'm just a big fan of how Mike approaches it and his players. And then they come back and they lose to Michigan by 1 touchdown. They go on the road to a physical Nebraska team and beat them. They go on the road to a physical Rutgers team and beat them. That's a great way to close out the season. And you talk about getting some momentum into recruiting and into next year and upping your stock a little bit as far as bowl opportunities with those extra wins at the end of the year. Just fantastic finish. Maryland gets the award.
And if they win their bowl game, they have a chance to do something they haven't done in 20 years, and that's win 8 games consecutively. And Mike Locksley's talked a lot about building this program and not just having 1 good year or 2 good years. Now you got 3 straight bowl games, and there's just a feeling, the arrow's pointing up. I know they didn't win any of those games against the elite in the Big Ten that they wanted to win this year, but certainly a lot of good vibes around that program.
Get your players.
We're going to reveal the All-Big Ten offense coming up tomorrow, individual awards as well. Anthony Herron and Pat Forty will join me for that. Thanks so much for watching Big Ten Today. We will see you next time.